Hey people, thanks for tuning in to Cult Rhino. I'm just going to give you some quick morning news, just a few top headlines, see what you think. The first one is China is bumping heads with the U.S. even more now. The foreign minister made a statement just recently condemning the United States for basically going against Russia and China being involved in the Ukraine and a few other things. This foreign minister compares China's U.S. relationship with that of a car crash, saying that the U.S. is heading down a road, the wrong path. Let's find it here. So he said the U.S. wanted to outcompete China but didn't seek conflict, but in reality, the U.S. side's so-called competition is all out containment and suppression, a zero-sum game where we die and they live. If the U.S. does not hit the brakes but continues to speed down the wrong path, no amount of guardrail can prevent derailing, and there will surely be conflict and confrontation. China's talking war here. He goes on saying how China and Russia are close, and the more we pressure them, basically, the stronger Beijing and Moscow get. And it's not looking good. Biden cannot contain himself. He can't stop interfering in this Ukraine debacle where we don't belong, and all he's doing is making matters worse. And then what? So he goes on saying that the more unstable the world becomes, the more imperative it is for China and Russia to steadily advance their relations. So he continues to talk about other things. China's mad that we shot down their balloon, which I still say Biden waited way too long to do it. So China-U.S. relations have deteriorated sharply in recent years, and efforts to mend it were derailed earlier this year when we shot down their spy balloon flying in U.S. airspace. Blah, blah, blah. China's still using that as an excuse to go after us. There's nothing new here as far as that is concerned. What is new is how China is telling us, back off or there will be war. And what is Biden doing? Nothing. He's going to continue blowing out billions and billions and hundreds of billions out to Ukraine. Money that our country could use. Our homeless, our vets, our needy, everybody else could use. But no, Ukraine needs that money in a conflict with Russia that we don't belong. So it goes on and on. This press conference, so far as I know, just happened earlier, within the past few hours. But China is warning us, and we'll have to see what comes of that. I'm sure more will come out today. Next news is some 4 Americans were kidnapped in Mexico at gunpoint. Now, from what I've read in here, they drove down there in a minivan, and they drove down for somebody to get a tummy tuck, I think. Not really sure. It goes on to say that they were warned not to go to this area. I guess they're battling cartels, and these cartels have been known to kill Americans. I guess in 2014, 3 siblings, I think, went down there and disappeared, and 2 weeks later, people found their bodies shot and burned. So these people were told not to do it, and they did anyway. But that's not saying it's right, but it does show that world relations against the United States are not going good. What are they? They're from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and friends. Third friend. So yeah, there was 4 of them going for a tummy tuck cosmetic surgery. So apparently these are cheaper, wouldn't say safer, but cheaper and probably easier to get in Mexico. I mean, we've all heard of the people who go down there to get certain surgeries end up bleeding to death in an alley or something like that in a hotel room, missing their kidneys or whatever. But for some reason, people still trust that these doctors in Mexico are actually going to do what they're supposed to do. Not saying this doctor was a bad one, but kind of got a reputation in these Mexican doctors. So anyway, the FBI has issued a $50,000 reward for the return and the arrest of the culprits, but we don't know. They say that these cartels take people and they just disappear. So we'll see. This is, as far as I know, a brand new story coming out as of yesterday. We'll see what happens. But being taken at gunpoint on video shows that Mexico does not fear the United States. Nobody fears the United States anymore. We've gone down the wrong path. We got the worst person in the White House that we could possibly have. And this is what's happening. China hates us. Mexico hates us. The whole world disrespects us. They do not fear us. At least when Trump was in, people knew better than to do things like this. So what else we got today? Oh, George Santos. So here's a difference between Republicans and Democrats. Republicans have no problem calling out fellow Republicans who don't belong anywhere near D.C. Democrats, they don't care how bad, how corrupt, how much a person lies, as long as there's a D next to their name, they will stand by them and make up reasons. They will give any excuse they have to give to keep that Democrat in that seat, because all they care about is having majority, not about anybody's reputation or personal constitution. So the Republicans are calling out George Santos, who is nothing more than a filthy liar. What is he, a Mexican Jew, gay, straight bi guy who, I don't even remember all of the lies, but he did admit, I mean, on Piers Morgan and on many other shows, he's admitted to how much he lied. He says he embellished his past to help him with votes, and it was spur of the moment. He got caught up in it, and it just happened. A liar is a liar, and we don't need a liar representing us, especially in New York, where we finally got a foothold. Republicans finally have a foothold and are able to actually do some good in New York. It's hard to say because New York is almost as bad as, California, Chicago, and those. But we'll see. So now 6 of his New York colleagues are protesting him. They're calling for him to resign. Hopefully, he's not going to resign. So what they need to do is an impeachment. They need to bring this guy up on charges. I mean, look, Clinton got it for lying about extracurricular activities with a woman. Had nothing to do with lying about who he was and what he stood for when he was running for president. If he could get impeached for that, this guy should surely be impeached. And we don't need him in there. Nobody needs this guy in there. He's a joke. He's a coward. He's a liar. And he's a stain on what the Republicans are trying to do. They finally have a chance at flipping New York, at least on some policies. And you got this idiot who's making it even harder to do. They already have a hard enough time. They have idiots like crazy people like AOC who they're having to fight against for the smallest policies. So this guy, he said, that he hasn't had charges pressed on him yet and things like that. So he's not going to bow down. They need to take him out. They need to impeach him, be rid of him. And that's the good thing about Republicans is, for the most part, they're not afraid to take on fellow Republicans. We saw that in the vote for the House Speaker. We've seen that many times over, especially in recent years. So that's a good thing. We're going to keep up on George Santos. He's annoying. I don't like hearing him talk, but I will keep up on it here and there just to see what happens. And hopefully he gets removed. So the last one I'm going to talk about today, Joe Biden. This is actually interesting. So I don't know if everybody knows, but I'm pretty sure most people have heard. Washington, D.C., they're trying to pass laws to reduce sentencing for the worst crimes there are. These tough on crime Democrats, they pretend to be. They're saying rape, murder, armed robbery, armed crimes, and other things. They want to reduce the penalties for these crimes. I think that would be called encouraging more crime, especially in a place like D.C., where they don't have any crime there. I mean, unless you talk about the Capitol and the White House. Nothing but thieves and criminals there. But Joe Biden is actually siding with the Republicans. He's actually going to try to overturn this. Now, I know the mayor, Bowser, not a good person, but Bowser did try to overturn it. But the city council voted to go ahead and go forward with this reduced sentencing, this soft on crime bill. So for the past few days, Biden and the White House have refused to comment on this bill. They don't want to get tied up in it. And so Republicans have finally said that they are going to block this measure in D.C. Surprisingly, Joe Biden said he would support this measure, which means they are going to overturn D.C.'s law that city council is pushing, and they're going over the mayor's head. It's amazing that even Joe Biden and Bowser don't want these laws, and they're willing to side with Republicans. That's pressure. That is how pressure works, and it's a good thing Joe Biden is finally making at least one good decision. I don't know. It's not like it was a tough decision to make, but I guess, it takes 2 years of people just stomping on everything he says for him to finally do something right. But then we have crazies like this representative from Washington. I'm deeply disappointed to see the president announces he will allow Congress to overturn a D.C. law. Yeah, D.C. should be able to just encourage more crime. Those people are dealing with enough already. So this idiot is showing her colors, and where is she from? Oh yeah, Washington, which means she knows all about these cities ridden with crime. Washington is a state that used to be pretty good, and now it's going down the path of California. Washington, Oregon, California, the whole West Coast. I mean, hypothetically, an earthquake hits, that whole western coast falls off into the ocean and disappears. Most people agree we'd probably be a better country with it. President Biden wanted to make sure he delivered the 700,000 residents of D.C. in a way that was protecting the residents here. So now he's joining the Republicans. Of course, he's going to take all of the good press for it and pretend that he was the one who was all for overriding this in the first place. He's not going to talk about working with Republicans because that's a big no-no right now, because if you have an R next to your name, you're an ist or a phobic, a combination of those probably. If you happen to have a darker skin tone, you are definitely a Tom or a sellout or whatever, because everything you do has to have with race or homophobic tendencies or whatever, because these people are psycho. Anyway, that's a quick update, just a few stories that are going on. I'll try to come back later with some more. Till then, this is Colt Rhino. This is just your morning news. Thank you. Have a good day. I'm Smith, and I'm not wearing any pants.